Hey guys, so I want to welcome you to today's live stream. Today we're going to be talking about the basics of food labels. Before I get started, again, I want to thank you guys for being part of this fitness challenge I've been doing this week. This challenge is almost coming to a close. It'll be ending on Sunday. Um, and I am going to plan on doing more challenges probably pretty soon. I just have to decide sort of what the theme is, I guess you'd say. But I'm going to be doing more challenges so that you guys can each all get an opportunity of see what my programming is as far as my fitness program. Excuse me, as far as my fitness programming and what I have to offer. So I will constantly keep you guys posted, especially in the Facebook group. And on my social media stuff, I usually always sort of advertise, I guess you'd say, for all of my upcoming promotional stuff, as well as sending out emails. If you've not signed out, excuse me, if you've not signed up for my email, I do have a link that if you go onto my Facebook profile, there's a link for Linktree, and there's a way you can sign up for my email. Basically, I send out email newsletters, different promotional information, and stuff related to fitness and my programming. I usually send out a newsletter each week. I work on one during the week, and I send it out each Monday normally. If there are any changes with that, I usually send out emails to let you guys know if there's changes. But so far, I'm on my 11th issue coming up with my newsletter. So I'm working on that this week. Got one set up for this week and should be sending out on Monday. But if you guys are interested in that, please just send me a message or you can sign up through my Linktree. It's really simple to sign up. All you need is your name and basically your email. And I'll send you emails about different various topics related to fitness and health. So that's all I wanted to sort of get started with. So today is a pretty good topic. As much as each day is a pretty good topic. But we're going to talk a little bit about food labels. Again, I want to do this in a more condensed way so that it's easier to dissect and it's easier to sort of break down these elements, and it's not so much information. So we're going to go over the main basics of food labels, maybe stuff that you guys may not have known about. But I'm going to break down these today. I am going to look down just to sort of stay on track of what I need to be talking about with the food labels. So if you see me looking down, that's why. Alrighty, so let's get started. So food labels you've probably seen. We've all probably, looked at them, read them sometime in our life. So basically they contain most of the information you should know related to nutritional and ingredients inside food and drinks. So it's basically just a fact list of what information you need to know, what's in these food items or drinks, and what ingredients that are in these items. I am going to talk a little bit about the difference between the nutrition facts and the ingredients a little bit later on in the presentation because I think that's important to know in itself. So, understanding each section of the label. So, there are multiple topics to discuss when it comes to food labels, and these include various terms that you've probably seen on food labels, such as calories, carbohydrates, sodium, cholesterol, fats, fibers, sugars, and servings. I'm going to go through these a little bit and sort of explain a little bit about what each of these mean in a simplified way so that you can understand them. So I'm mainly going to go over the main parts of the labels that you've seen. And as I mentioned before, I guess it was actually towards the beginning of the presentation, but the difference between nutritional information and ingredients. So I know you've probably seen the nutrition facts label, which I showed just a second ago. So you're going to see the nutrition facts it's all in one little black box. And then towards the bottom, below the facts, you usually see an ingredients list. So the difference between these. Nutritional information is, of course, described as the nutrients that come from consuming the food or drink listed on the label. So, for example, fats, cholesterol, sodium, carbohydrates, protein, anything like that is sort of the nutritional consumption, depending on, how it's measured, whether it be, percent daily value, grams, things of that sort. So, ingredients. Ingredients are what is composed of the food item and or drink. For example, a soft drink will likely list carbonated water and other ingredients to make up the item. So, ingredients are just basically what makes up that particular item, what was put together to make up that particular food or drink item. Like I said, usually soft drinks or any kind of carbonated drinks, such as energy drinks, are usually going to have carbonated water in their ingredients list. For example, if you have something that has an artificial sweetener, it's likely going to have sucrose, glucose, anything of that sort as a ingredient. Some, for example, like if you have items that have very large labels, uh, not labels, but ingredients list, that usually means that they have a lot of artificial stuff in them, a lot of a lot of preservative based stuff that's in the item itself or the food and drink item itself. And when you have a smaller list, usually that means the item is more natural, it's more simplified. Like, for example, I've got a bottle of water here. It doesn't have any sort of nutrition facts label on it because it's water. It doesn't, it's not really composed of a whole lot of things. It's pretty natural. Um, well, actually, for the ingredients, see, it has a small ingredients list, which is purified water, cal- calcium chloride, and sodium bicarbonate. That's all that's in this bottle of water that I have here. So it's pretty natural. There's not a whole lot of, there's not preservatives or there's not anything added to the item. Alrighty, so servings. Servings is something that I actually use pretty often, especially when it comes to something that I should say that I reference often when it comes to protein, because I usually try to take, double the servings of protein based on my sort of body fat, I guess you'd say. But basically, what a serving is referred to as a reference amount based on the product consumed in a single sitting. So, for example, sometimes you'll see on certain items, like a serving size would be 2 to 3 cups, or that'd be 55 grams, but in the container itself is 8 servings. So one single serving is basically the single sitting of eating that food item. So when it's saying that there's 8 servings per container, if you see on a label, on a nutrition facts label, that means there's 8 servings of that 2/3 cup of that specific serving size. So you could take 8 serving, like that particular food item could have 8 servings that you could consume from that. But in a single sitting, you're likely just going to consume that 2 to 3 cup or 55 gram serving size, if that makes sense. So the next one we're going to talk about is pretty common. Everybody pretty much knows what this is, and this is calories. Calories is going to be on the top of the food label. It's one of the first things you're going to see on the label, and it's going to stand out because usually it's in big bold letters and it's in a big bold number. So basically what calories is the amount of energy from food that can raise heat in the body. If that's probably something you may not have known, but that's basically what a calorie is. Again, calories can be broken down based on their servings. So, for example, like I have this nutrition facts label here, it's saying that you have a serving size of 2 to 3 cups, 55 gram serving size, and then the amount per serving for calories is 230 calories. So you're going to get 230 calories from that single serving, that's 2 thirds cup. But if you were to, for example, if you're taking 8 servings of that, that's going to add on top of that. So that's 230 calories plus 8. So what it's saying here is from that one serving, you're going to get 230 calories. You're going to consume 230 calories from that. Carbohydrates. You've likely heard this because it's a hot topic right now. So carbohydrates is the primary energy source for the body and helps with fueling exercises, especially vigorous exercise. Glycogen is the storage form of carbohydrates. So carbohydrates is a very important, I guess it's very common now because you hear about keto diets and things of that sort. But carbohydrates are actually really essential when it comes to energy for your body. And that's something that not a lot of people know. So that's something to keep in mind. Yes, you should, sort of keep aware of your carbohydrate intake, but it is a energy source for your body. So not having enough, you're not going to have, sufficient energy. And that's something you may not have known, but that's basically what carbohydrates are. It's just an energy source for the body. Sodium. So sodium is another, and again, these are very common on nutrition facts labels. These are the main ones that you're likely going to see. Sodium is basically another name for salt, and it is important to have information depending on your diet or health situation. So, for people who can't really, who have to watch their salt intake, I guess you'd say, it's good to be aware of that. Sodium is usually sort of in the middle portion of the nutrition facts list, and it will break it down, of course, by its percent daily value, and then you've got the sodium depending on how many milligrams it has. Protein. Protein is a really important one that I always keep in mind with foods that I eat. So basically what protein is building blocks of body tissue, and it helps with building muscle. So, eggs, any kind of poultry items, meats, that's always going to have protein in them. So when it comes to protein, it's really essential for building muscle. Like I kind of mentioned before, when it comes to sort of your serving size, it's always recommended that you take around your body weight or a little bit more than your body weight when it comes to protein. So I usually try to take double of the amount of protein intake rather than what a single serving is. So I normally take double the serving. Like if I take, protein powder, I usually take double that serving, whatever's on there. So that's something that I usually keep in mind. Just depending on what your body weight is, you want to take a certain amount of protein. But that's a topic for another day. I mean, there's a lot that goes into protein and how much you should take. But it's mostly based on body weight that you need to keep in mind. But like I said, it's the building blocks of body tissue, and it helps with building muscle. Cholesterol. Cholesterol is not really talked about that much anymore, but it's basically a fatty-like substance that is mostly found in body cells. It's not a major topic as it used to be, but that's pretty much what cholesterol is. Fiber, this is probably one that you've heard of as well. So fiber is an indigestible carb that is mostly found in plant food and has been known to help with the regulation of the digestive system. So sometimes when you have carbs and fiber, sometimes the fiber can subtract the carbs because fiber in itself is a carb, but it's indigestible, which is why, that kind of goes into, the digestive system, why you're likely to use the bathroom when you take a certain amount of fiber. That's because it's an indigestible carb, and the body doesn't really know how to, digest it. And that's basically what fiber is. Alrighty, so that's basically the end of this list, guys. So again, I just kind of wanted to go through just the basics of food labels. There is one thing that I think is important that I kind of want to go back to with food labels before I end here. So I just want to go back and show you guys this food label just for reference. And I want to go down the list here a little bit more. This will be the last thing I sort of discuss, but there's a lot of different things that you should keep in mind when you're reviewing these nutrition facts. And as I mentioned, I'm kind of going to go down the list here. So you always want to make sure you want to know how many servings in a package of food. You know, is a serving size appropriate for me, or do I need to take more or less than that serving? You want to be aware of your calorie. Yep, you want to be aware of the caloric contribution to this serving size of the product, as well as if it's does it seem excessively high in the calorie and the intake calorie you're likely going to have, as it refers to the total calories in the product. Fats are not one thing that I really talked about, but you want to be aware of how much fat and total fat is in a serving of a product, as well as the saturated fat. Trans fat, is there any trans fat in this product? The fats are something that I probably could do in a separate video, or live stream, I guess I should say. Cholesterol. So I have sort of something, I guess, as reference. So the U.S. Dietary Guidelines for Americans no longer specifies any limitations on dietary cholesterol intake. So cholesterol intake is a little bit different than it used to be. It used to be a major issue in the past. Sodium, how much sodium is provided in a specified serving size, and does it fit the context of my diet, which is kind of what I mentioned earlier. Carbohydrates, how much carbohydrates in a serving, how does it fit into my diet and carbohydrate needs. Dietary fiber, how much fiber is in the serving, and how does it contribute to my dietary needs. How many grams of sugar, any added sugars, which is, you know, extra sugars that could be added to a specific, I mean, it could be like something more natural, and added sugars were put into the item. Protein, how much protein is provided in the specified serving, and how does it fit in the context of my needs. And then another thing that comes up too at the bottom of the label is sometimes it will actually show down here at the bottom what sort of vitamin percentage is in a certain item. So some food items, you know, can have a good high source of a certain vitamin. Usually it's mentioned on the package too of the item, but that's something else to keep in mind, that some items will have a high, you know, percentage value of a certain vitamin or mineral. Alrighty, so I kind of just wanted to go through that and sort of, you know, go through what things you should consider as far as it comes to, you know, going straight down the food label. You know, what do I need in my diet, or what sort of things do I need to consider if I'm going to eat this food or drink this drink, and things of that sort. Nutrition is a very interesting topic, and I would like to go further into it. Again, I can't go so far because you know, most of my certification is through personal training and the fitness aspect of it. But I do have some knowledge of nutrition. In the future, I really want to learn a little bit more about nutrition, because I think it's really essential when it comes to, you know, not only just health but fitness. It's essential. You know, you got to have the nutrition side of, you know, your program to work in order for your fitness part of your program to work. So I think that's important. It's really important to be aware of your nutrition, especially being knowledgeable of food labels and things like that. I think it's important to sort of know that. So thank you guys for watching this live stream. So this is the last live stream of the week, but I am likely planning on doing another one next week. I just don't know what the topic is. I haven't figured out exactly what I'm going to do. But I'm likely going to do at least one live stream next week. But I'll let you guys know and I'll add it to the group and the event page. If you guys have any questions about anything that I talk about in previous live streams or in this live stream, you can always send me an email. I've provided my email, my phone number back on my presentation so you guys can sort of see it as reference and if you want to contact me for anything. But again, thank you guys for watching these live streams. I enjoy doing these, and I like to give you guys as much value and as much important information that you can take with you. So thank you guys for taking the time to watch these live streams, and I will let you guys know when I will be doing the next one. This will be uploaded to YouTube pretty soon as well, so you can watch it if you're not able to watch it live in real time. So thank you guys for watching, and I look forward to talking to you next time.